everyone's ears. I was just born approximately 30 seconds ago and was offered vaccinations at the local hospital of hell. The question that plagues me is whether or not I should accept this offer.
The obvious answer is no, and I can support it with facts. To begin, where do you live? How successful is your country economically and health-wise?
I live in hell. The government is thinly ruled and many suffer from ailments that could otherwise be prevented with intervention. We struggle economically and have limited access to the resources that the rich people in wealthy countries like the United States do. However, I was still offered vaccinations. How is this relevant?
The hospital is pranking you. It's a trap. At present, there is an investment gap in the research and development of vaccines on a global scale. Vaccines typically rely on private investment to finance the cost of production and commercialization. This means that private companies oftentimes have control over which vaccinations are prioritized and whether or not they can be purchased for national immunization programs. The investments put in by private manufacturers do not benefit developing countries as much as many organizations believe they should. For example, in 1992, $55.8 billion was spent on research and development globally. However, only 4% of this spending, or about $2.2 billion, was spent on disorders that plague primarily low and middle-income countries. If you live in a poor country, you may not be able to receive the vaccines that you need. Whatever they offered you is garbage. Please consider being anti-vaccination.
So fast, putrid demon. You are not wrong to call out the investment gap and the resource struggle for middle to low-income countries. However, there are policies in place to aid these countries so that they have a chance to receive the vaccinations that are available to countries other than the ones that produce them. There is a concept called differential pricing, also known as price discrimination, that allows different prices to be charged in different regions depending on the economic status of that region.
This means that even if my country is poor, I can still afford to purchase what I need?
Hopefully yes. Though these systems still are not perfect, they increase the availability of vaccinations. Small steps are better than no steps.
That argument is wildly inconsistent. Even with price discrimination, the cost of vaccines is usually still too high. Brand-name drug companies monopolize the industry and make it nearly impossible for cheaper options, like generics, to be available.
Why can't we produce generics?
Because of patented monopolies. This makes it so that certain companies own the rights to their drugs. However, the World Health Organization has a policy in place that allows poorer countries to copy the compounds of patented drugs in order to create generics that are cheaper in price. This waiver has been extended to 2033. This organization also created something called the Expanded Program on Immunization that helped countries set up infrastructure necessary to create standard vaccine packages.
Fine. A potential to increase access to vaccinations worldwide exists. Whether or not it works, I will admit that some poorer countries have had a better time at receiving the vaccinations they need. Hell appears to be one of these places. But this does not change certain economic facts that should make vaccines questionable.
What facts? Are they not safe for consumption?
We are unable to prove that they are safe. You might get autism.
There is not evidence pertaining to autism. And even if vaccines did cause autism, would you rather be dead? Try another argument.
Fine. Let's look into a cost-benefit analysis, or lack thereof. It is difficult to effectively perform a cost-benefit analysis on the introduction of a vaccine on a population. Not all of the same principles can be applied to vaccines like they are applied to other types of pharmaceutical products. When it comes to assessing the information in a given population, there is often a lot of uncertainty regarding the benefit of the implementation due to unreliable cohort modeling. Also, it is difficult to accurately assess the long-term effects of vaccines, especially new ones. This jeopardizes the initial investment of the new vaccine, because there is no precedent for its effectiveness, or to the concern of many, its safety.
Incorrect. It is unfair to try to implement a cost-benefit analysis in this situation. Instead, let's look at this in terms of externalities. If you enforce vaccines as being mandatory, you are also enforcing a positive externality. Take herd immunity, for example. When 90 to 95% of a population of people are vaccinated against a particular disease, herd immunity is achieved. This means that if an individual within the population is not vaccinated, chances are they too will be protected against the disease. This is especially beneficial to those who are unable to receive vaccinations. For instance, those with compromised immune systems and/or allergies to specific ingredients incorporated in the vaccine compound may be unable to receive a vaccination, as it would pose a greater risk than benefit to their health. If herd immunity is reached, they are more likely to be protected from infection.
Have you never heard of antibiotic resistance? I'm sure that a similar thing happens with vaccinations. If you vaccinate against all these diseases and viruses, new ones will emerge. Consider this a negative externality.
Does that negative externality outweigh instant death? No, it does not. Consider the economic boost of not having thousands of children die from preventable deaths instead. In the time it took for the anti-vaxxer to attempt to create another argument, he died from smallpox, which, by the way, was eradicated worldwide by vaccination in 1980.
Thanks, I'll accept the vaccination.